Hello and welcome back to Off Track Podcast with me, Dave Neal, and this episode proudly sponsored by SAF Holland. Known for delivering quality axles, suspension, braking systems and telematics to the truck, trailer and bus industry, and also proud sponsors of National Superstock team JR Performance. In this third episode from the World Superbike Championship at Donington Park, we sit down with Pata Maxus Yamaha's Jonathan Rea. The six-time world champion was on fabulous form, and it was great to sit down with Jonathan just to dig deep into the season and find out how he really feels about the way that it's turned out and what his thoughts are for the future. That's enough from me. Let's get on with it. Just before you go, if you like what we do, make sure you like and subscribe. But enough of that. Let's get on with it. Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Rea.
Take two, Jonathan Rea. Sorry about that. Six-time world champion, Pata Yamaha. Welcome back to Off Track. Great to see you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm good, thanks. Just excited for this weekend. Feel like my season hasn't really started yet. You know, with the injury in Phillip Island and just spending so much time away from the track. Probably rushing back to Cremona. I had a tough weekend there from a pain point of view. But started to make some inroads in Moss. Austin Mazzano, but unfortunately race 2 ended in the gravel for me, and it soured at what was, on paper not an amazing weekend, but one that we were making progress throughout. So try and forget that part, come to a bit of a happy stumbling ground, somewhere that's familiar at least. I grew up in BSV here, and from my best result last year, I was on the podium here with Yamaha, so looking forward to see what the weekend brings.
How difficult is it when you have an injury of that magnitude? Because you're a motorcycle racer, you've had injuries through your career, some been more severe than others. This was probably the biggest injury, I think, that you've ever had in your career.
In recent times, yeah, I broke my femur as not a kid, I was 17 in Supersport at Knockhill, then again in 13 at Nürburgring, but I've been so fortunate in the last decade or so. And, last year, 2 huge crashes at Phillip Island again. And okay, I didn't fracture anything, but I'd separated my shoulder a little bit more than the past, not enough to have an operation. Then Magnicure, unfortunately, I just got caught under the bike, ripped my thumb, had surgery on that. And then you feel like you get the ball rolling again, and then it happens, you're injured again. So these are just moments in time, they pass, good times and bad. But the hardest thing about being injured at the start of the year is everyone starts from zero, right? So if you're sat at home on the sofa, everyone's got that momentum. And then you come back and try to start your season and everyone's up to speed. That was tough. But generally when it happens in the middle of the year, everyone's found their place, their rhythm, the feeling with the bike, and it's quite easy to rebound back. But I came back and I was felt like a novice in Cremona, to be honest. Not everything was happening too fast, but I wasn't at race rhythm again. Fitness wasn't amazing. Bike fitness wasn't amazing. And, you really do take that for granted when you set out the first part of the year.
How do you deal with that kind of frustration? Because as fans, and I'm the biggest fan of the sport, that's why I do this, we don't see you once you disappear off from a race circuit, whether it be an ambulance, whether you're on crutches, whatever. Then you've got to go home to the family for rehab, to build while everything is still moving forward. This sport never looks back.
Yeah.
This sport is always the next session, the next race, the next round. How do you deal with that situation from a normal bloke's perspective like mine? We can never imagine how difficult that is from a motorcycle racer's perspective.
Yeah, I've learned to deal with the emotions of being injured better. And my wife would probably tell you, when I'm injured, I'm a better person at being in routine, and really treat it as a job. But social media helps people understand a bit more now, because I tried to give a bit of that, when you get away from the track. Yeah. So people kind of understand what goes on Monday to Friday. But honestly, it's a sink or swim. And you're right. The racing world never stands still. But even, when I was doing amazing, you're constantly trying to be better. So when you're injured, sometimes you feel like you're left behind, and maybe you try to overcompensate, I straight away, I was doing everything. I had the best doctors, the best aftercare. I went and bought myself a hyperbaric chamber so I could have it at home. I had physio pretty much daily. And but that's all looked after by me, not the team, manufacturer, some sort of special sponsors, because I want to be back there as fast as possible. And I think that's, what makes motorcyclists a bit different, because it is, if everyone gets a signal, from work, they're happy to sit at home. But for us, even if you're half ready to come back, you want to come back, you want to ride the bike, you want to regain that feeling. And, sometimes that can be a bad thing, coming back too fast, but it's how we're all built. It's like when you crash your 50cc motocross bike and you're full of tears and your dad puts you back on it. That's what you get brought up with. So, it's like all I knew, and I threw everything into recovery. And Cremona was a bit tough, and then I got to Most and I had that huge crash. It was all over the WorldSBK feed. There was quite a few of us had crashes in the rear that weekend in FP1. And I looked behind halfway through my crash, and the bike was coming at me, and I just managed to crawl out of the way. And it was deja vu to Phillip Island, actually, because it was the bike that did the impact. It came down on my foot. I thought, what am I doing again? And fortunately, I got away with that one. But I think we're a different breed, to be honest.
There's no doubt about that.
But everybody's the same. I'm not an exception. You look up and down the paddock. Yeah, there's riders that they would do everything. I think it's just inbuilt in motorcycle riders.
I find that a bit, while we're sat talking, that you are part of an incredible breed of people. It doesn't matter if it's road racing, BSB Worlds, MotoGP. I find it absolutely fascinating how you can deal with the difficulties that you do, but then counter them on the highs that you have with all the race wins, all the World Championship. But I think for me, one of the most important things that you have, and I'm sure you correct me if I'm wrong, that close family unit.
Yeah, that's important, because it's important because it gives you a little bit of perspective. But I found it good. I wouldn't say young dad, but I think I was 26 or 27 probably when I had my firstborn. And that's actually when the things just started happening good. Jake was born at 13. I had my best ever season with Honda in 14. And then moved to Cowie in 15. Tyler was born at the end of that year, and I'd won a championship. So it's been incredibly special as a human, actually, just to be winning championships. But they've been doing it with me, and it's been a nice story to have as a father, But as an athlete, it sort of changes nothing really. Like I say, we're all a bit strange. You don't have that sentimental feeling when you're going out on the bike. Oh, because I'm a dad or a husband, I wonder what happens if, you put your visor down. It's such a self-centered world, to be fair. The big, great motorbike riders, they're a great case study for psychologists, to be honest. But I don't know any different, but they're sort of on the journey with me, and they feel the brunt sometimes of a tough weekend or an amazing weekend, and but it's nice when it comes good. And I've had amazing good stories to share with them, and racing's given me everything in life. It's given them a great life. We've been able to travel places in the world that we would have never seen as a family had it not been for bikes. So, incredibly blessed.
Coming on to this season on the Yamaha now, you are starting literally and metaphorically on the back foot, which makes things difficult. It hasn't been the easiest transition from the previous manufacturer to the Yamaha for whatever reason. How do you plan the second half of the World Superbike season now? You're back to reasonably full fitness, I guess.
Yeah. It's just step by step, literally. It's one of them. I just spoke to a journalist earlier, and he put it to me in a really nice way. He says, if you describe it as a marriage, how would you describe it? And I was like, great way to put it, because it's a marriage, and both myself and Yamaha both have a lot of love. I love the people, but it's like sometimes you're trying to force it. I'm not riding in the best way. I'm still learning. It's like we're still understanding each other's boundaries, if you like. And I tried to cut myself some slack at times, because it took Top Rack quite a bit to really get on top of the bike. Of course, Superbike's had a huge step forward in the last years. And he's since moved on. Locatelli's been here 6 years. So I tried to cut myself some slack and realized, I'm I'm good. Don't get down. You know, I've won a hell of a lot of races here, a lot of championships. Just keep believing, and this is a moment in time that'll pass. Keep trusting the process, working hard, and you know the tough times build a lot of resilience. So try to see the big picture, and I know we're going to have some good moments. You know, we've already had some good moments, not to the highs that I experienced before, but I was pretty not tired, but I needed something different. You know, when I was at Cowie and at Yamaha, I found something different. I wanted a challenge, and I certainly got a challenge. And you just keep, because it's new still and fresh. Okay, we're 18 months in, but it still feels fresh. It's exciting to keep working. It's, you know, a good group of people, but we need to keep moving the project forward because I think we can show a lot better than we're showing right now.
With all the experience that you have through the various manufacturers, how much more is it, like percentage wise, how much more is there to come from the Yamaha R1? How much more is there to come from Jonathan?
Good question. Don't know how much we're going to speak about that, but from an honest point of view, I think with the rules and Superbike right now being so restrictive in terms of development, with and you have to count on concessions and not to improve the bike. The biggest single area for improvement is with electronics. Electronics are completely open. It's an area that, you know, I've cited to improve the most. You know, you can spend tens or hundreds of thousands on engine development, but if you can't implement it because it's a standard regulation, let's say, you can't do much. Or, you know, electronics is a free area that we need to improve, and you know, I've cited that early, and we need to keep making improvements in that area. That area for me right now is confidence on getting on the gas, the connection from my throttle to electronics, to the seat, to the rear wheel, you know, and if that's not quite in synergy, and when you grow up with another bikes and models systems that does something a bit different, it gives you that bit more confidence, let's say. It's harder to come and just manufacture that with this bike. So it's the other riders are doing a better job of that right now, especially my teammate Locke. So it's I know it can be done, but it's very hard to implement that in my riding.
One thing that you said recently, which I thought was quite telling, that last season was manufacturing optimism. Of this season, you find that there are green shoots of optimism coming through, which is fantastic for you and for the project. So can you still find yourself enjoying the process at the moment?
I'd be lying if I said I'm enjoying the process, because it's been so tough. But I'm working with a great group of guys that are all so motivated. So it's hard to, and no matter if my results are winning races or, you know, I'm finishing right at the back, I go home and I'm pretty motivated at home, you know, working hard, trying to be as best as I can be. But it is frustrating at times when you get to FP1 and you know, sometimes your name's not right up there where you're used to seeing it. That's where it gets tough. But you roll your sleeves up and get stuck in. You know, it's the same for everybody, and I understand that feeling of, you know, being right at the top, being the reference, you know, spraying the champagne, and that's what makes it even more, you know, motivating to try, because you know what that feels like. You want to get back there, you know. So just try not to force the wave coming, because that's when, you know, mistakes happen, and try to keep my demeanor or attitude or patience, you know, quite in check, because when things aren't happening, sometimes you can get louder in the garage and annoy more people. But I've just tried to be respectful and balanced and give my comments. You know, if it's not working, it's not working. You know, believe in myself and everybody around, and hopefully we'll make it work.
I asked you this question 2 years ago. I'm going to ask it again now. When you're in the airport, ready to fly home from the last round, when you look back on the season, what will be a success for you?
What will be an success? Well, right now, if you're asking me that today about this season, leaving Jerez, I think success would look like, you know, a few podiums. You know, I think a race win, if I'm being honest with myself and where we are, he's going to be tough. But success would be podiums. Being able to battle week in, week out with my teammate who's won a race this year in Assam, who's the reference right now at Yamaha. If I can be there, that's success. That's what it looks like. And that's, okay, maybe that's not being too ambitious, or people would say, but where I've come from, how injured I've been, it's, that would be success for me to move forward, into 2026 and try to build from there.
5 minutes? Perfect. Thank you, Jonathan. I will jump on to the Patreon questions straight away. Thanks, Ollie. Thanks, Jonathan. It's been fascinating. Always enjoy sitting down and chatting to you. I did come prepared. The data was working. Don't give me that.
What are you on?
Vodafone.
Well,
there we are. We're here. We're in. It just took its time. So now I've got 3 minutes to get this done. Sorry about that.
All right.
We'll run through these Patreon questions as quick as we can. Simon Breeze, how does Jonathan see the future of the BSB paddock with the shift in commercial bike sales? And with regard to injuries, is age a factor in recovery time?
So two questions.
Two questions
really.
in one.
The future of BSB with the current sport bike market. That's a good question, because to keep all manufacturers interested in the series, because you need manufacturer support.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's a one-mix series. It's a tightrope for organisers and manufacturers alike. So, but from what I see from the outside, Stuart and his team do an incredible job, at keeping the show rolling. And then, does age play a factor in recovery? Yes, 100%. I've seen just, even as simple as scar healing or whatever, you heal, my kids heal like that. They crash their bicycle and they heal like that. I'm 38 years old and I don't heal quite as fast as that. So, age definitely does slow things down a little bit when it comes to recovery. But, that doesn't mean to say that you're any less an athlete. There's so many guys at the top end of their career, at the back end of their career, let's say, that are incredibly fit, strong and healthy. Exactly. And I think that's the biggest factor. If you can be strong and healthy, you're still going to be in great shape and recover well.
You're in the right ballpark for it anyway, aren't you? You can't stop the aging process. That's the one thing we can't do. From Andy Dickinson, Johnny, which of your world titles was the sweetest and meant the most to you? I have a feeling it would be 2019, but which one is it?
19 was nice because we came from such a deficit.
Yeah.
15 was special because it's the first one, and that's the most special. But the most special I felt was probably 17. It's my third title. The bike was incredible. And just, it's like I could do anything that year. It was a great season fighting with Chaz Davis as well. And so, yeah, too many. But 19 was definitely sweet coming from that deficit.
Perfect. One more question, Ollie, and I can feel you looking at me already. Hi, Dave and Jonathan. Johnny, if you had the chance, any track, any bike, any era, what would you pick?
Oh,
I love that question.
Any bike, any track.
As a connoisseur of the sport who gets to ride TZ750s on the Joey Dunlop, I'm buying your time here.
Yeah, you're giving me ideas, but it's cliche to sound, but I did a YouTube video of it on my channel about riding Max Biaggi's YZR 500 at Jerez last year with Valentino Rossi, so I was already in good company there. But if I could ride that bike there, 2-stroke 500 with my hero Kevin Swantz, probably Mick Doohan. Just put Mark Marquez in there as well. And Top Rack from current era.
Yeah.
That would be epic. It's like 500 2-strokes, Jerez, with all them guys.
That'd be something special, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a few fans in the seats.
That's a great way to finish it. Best of luck for this weekend and for the rest of the season. Jonathan, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you.
A big thanks to Jonathan for his time. It's not been an easy season for him. It's been difficult, as he explained. but we want to see some green shoots of resurrection for him and some great results before the end of the season. And a big tip of the hat to Ollie Rushby for organising the chat for us in the first place. Also, massive thanks must go to Saf Holland for sponsoring the episode. Without sponsors, we can't do what we do. So a massive thanks once again to Saf Holland for their support of the show. It's hugely appreciated. Next week, there are 3 more episodes from the Donington World Superbike round. We have Ryan Vickers, Alex Lowes and Chloe Jones coming up for you even on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday next week. So until then, thank you so very much for watching and please do look after yourself. Bye-bye.